Your health is your wealth. It's a popular saying, but very true. A healthy mind and body can conquer the world. Today we zoom in on the health sector, what you can do to stay in tip-top shape, and what the government is doing to improve access to proper health care. This is Jamaica Magazine, and I'm Theodore Henry. The news comes your way right after this message.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Give yourself a fighting chance. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
Good day, I'm Carrie-Ann Smith and this is your JIS News for Friday, March 17. Leader of the opposition, Portia Simpson-Miller, has expressed her support for the move to increase the insurable wage ceiling under the National Insurance Scheme. Mrs. Simpson-Miller says there is a need to increase the number of contributors of the scheme as well as the amount paid by the self-employed. While agreeing that many Jamaicans do not take retirement planning seriously, Mrs. Simpson-Miller called for a special standing committee on Social Security.
Going forward, there needs to be a comprehensive Social Security framework to take us into the next 50 years. I also propose that a special standing committee on Social Security be established in this Parliament to focus on increasing participation in pension schemes, as well as on promoting retirement planning and savings in the nation.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller was making her final contribution to the budget debate as leader in Parliament Thursday. In her farewell presentation, Mrs. Simpson-Miller reflected on her 43 years of service representing the people.
I've seen the good, the bad, the happy, and the sad. But above all, I've had an incredible journey of service to my beloved people and the country. Empowering and uplifting the people from persistent poverty have been central to my political philosophy and practice.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller has made 11 contributions to the budget debate, 5 as opposition leader and 6 as Prime Minister. On April 2, Mrs. Simpson-Miller will step down as leader of the People's National Party, but will remain as Member of Parliament for South West St. Andrew. The Senate will now deliberate on 2 bills which will allow government to collect taxes imposed on certain telephone calls since 2012. This after the House of Representatives on March 15 passed the Telephone Calls Tax Act 2017 and the Telephone Calls Tax Validation and Indemnification Act 2017.
It is proposed to validate the collection of the telephone calls tax from the period August 30, 2012 and ending on the enactment date of the proposed Telephone Calls Tax Act. It is further proposed to indemnify the government and all persons who, in good faith, collected the telephone call tax during the period to the enactment date of the proposed Telephone Calls Tax Act from any liability.
Finance Minister Audley Shaw explained that the telephone calls tax took effect by way of a provisional order since 2012 but was not confirmed. However, stakeholders relied on a technical note provided by Tax Administration Jamaica reflecting the policy intent, and that gave guidance on how the tax would be administered. Construction is to begin in the next several weeks on a $330 million 190 megawatt power plant at Old Harbour in St. Catherine. Cabinet gave approval for the Jamaica Public Service to build the plant, which will be able to generate electricity using natural gas and automotive diesel oil. Chairman of the Electricity Sector Enterprise Team, Professor Alvin Wint, made the disclosure during a recent press briefing.
The power purchase agreement for the 190 Old Harbour plant has been signed. The generating license has been granted. Environmental permits have been received. A contract has been signed with TSK, an engineering, procurement, and construction company. The shareholder agreement has been signed by all the parties. All of the loan and bond financing agreements are in place, and the loan process has been led locally by NCB with a syndicate of Jamaican financial institutions.
Professor Wint also used the press briefing to disclose the disbandment of the electricity sector enterprise team. He said the team's work is to be absorbed into the generation procurement entity, which is to be semi-autonomous and under the direction of the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology. Operators of public passenger vehicles whose road licenses are to expire on March 31 are being encouraged to take advantage of the Transport Authority's extended opening hours.
During the next 2 Sundays this month, we will open our examination facilities to allow persons to come in, the public passenger vehicles to come in and have these vehicles examined. So on March 19, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the authority will open its office in the northern region and at Lake Spence, St. Catherine. On March 26, 2017, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
The Transport Authority's Acting General Manager for Human Resource and Administration, Petra Keane-Williams, was speaking at a recent JIS think tank. She said come March 31, over 30,000 road licenses for public passenger vehicles will expire.
To date, some 9,136 vehicles have been examined, which means that there are some 20,000 vehicles that have not yet been examined.
And finally, Minister responsible for sport, Olivia Grange, says she expects football development in the region will be bolstered with Wednesday's opening of the Confederation of North, Central America and Caribbean Association Football, CONCACAF. The minister's comments were delivered by State Minister in the Ministry of National Security, Senator Pernell Charles Jr.
Through this new office, I expect increased collaboration, engagement, and improvement of the technical capacity of our sport administrators, coaches, agents, managers, and players in the Caribbean and across CONCACAF.
And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Carrie-Ann Smith. Thank you for watching.
Did you know regular physical activity controls your weight, reduces your risk of cardiovascular diseases, reduces your risk for type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, reduces your risk of some cancers, strengthens your bones and muscles, and increases your chance of living longer? Get active, get fit, stay healthy.
Streamlining the dispensation of drugs through public pharmacies, improving patient care delivery, and comprehensively tackling ZIGV are among the main focus areas for the Ministry of Health. Watch now to hear how these activities are being executed.
Minister of Health, the Honourable Christopher Tufton, speaks about achievements under his ministry. Welcome, I'm Ian Boyne. Minister, how would you sketch the major achievements of 2016?
Well, firstly, I think that we have been able to galvanize support around some critical areas that affect public health. The fight against the ZIGV virus, for example, is one such, coming on the heels, having formed the government, of the chikungunya issue, which generated a lot of controversy. We took the position that the key to fighting this vector, this battle, was publicly informing the population about their role, engaging greater awareness, visitation to homes, basically mobilizing the country. While we were doing that as part of the preventative measures for people to take action, we were also trying to equip our facilities to deal with those who were infected. And so in terms of the lab, to get a turnaround of blood results, in terms of putting in additional facilities for persons who were severely affected. We, I think, are at a place where Jamaicans are much more sensitive to maintaining control over their own environment as it relates to vector-borne diseases. It's going to be a continuous process, but I think we're better off for what we have been able to do through national mobilization. And as a consequence, I'd cite that as a very positive thing going forward. The other areas, as you know, public health is underfunded, and that has been always the case. We have identified some areas of priority that impact people. and in particular waiting time related issues.
Major
There are
issue.
4 or 5 areas that have been major challenges for Jamaicans who have to wait when they can't afford to pay private providers. So for example, the surgery, we have hundreds of Jamaicans who are on a long waiting list. We have started the process of extending operating theater time for routine surgeries, starting with the University Hospital of the West Indies. They have moved their times from 4:30 to 10, and in that time that they've started, they have reduced, I think, almost to zero the waiting time for those who are programmed for university operation. In fact, they are now taking referrals from other hospitals. And the experience, as I understand it, and even speaking to some of the patients, is that it's a lot more work for them, but it's quite rewarding that they have been able to reduce the time for persons waiting for surgery. In some instances, life-saving surgeries. It has put a strain on the system in that we have to get more infrastructure, more personnel, critical care nurses, and so on. But we have been able to manage, and it's a work in progress. Over the next year, we're hoping to expand that process in other hospitals. It does require some upgrading of some of the operating theater, some coordination of the logistics with the blood bank and so on. But we believe we can add another 3 or 4 in the next few months, and then over time roll it out across. That would effectively reduce waiting, and our target is to reduce by at least a half, by 50%, the wait for certain routine procedures, hemorrhoids, fibroids, and so on. Another big area of wait that we have been able to champion with reductions is in the area of waiting for drugs. Now, as you know, the NHF is effectively the government's health insurance scheme that provides free drugs for those who can't afford it. What we have been able to do is roll out a pilot in 2 parishes, in Clarendon, Maypen, and right here in the corporate area in and around Crossroads, where we have outsourced the distribution of free drugs through private to private pharmacies. 4 pharmacies in Clarendon, in and around Maypen Hospital, and 8 pharmacies in the Crossroads area, is demonstrating that increasingly patients are going to these private pharmacies, getting the drugs, and eliminating wait. And the plan is come April to roll out in about 100 or so pharmacies across the country. We believe what that will do is literally eliminate the need to wait for drugs after a patient has been diagnosed and a prescription given to them. And we think it's a great way to go. It's a public-private partnership, and that is something that this government has been committed to. How do we engage the private sector as part of the service provision, and in this case, in healthcare? We have addressed waiting time also, and I think successfully so, in the area of accident and emergency.
Yes.
We took 7 hospitals. We identified 7 clinics that were closest to those hospitals, in some instances on the compound. We extended the opening hours of each of those clinics from 4:30, in some instances to 10, in some instances to 8. We added personnel, added equipment based on our assessment of what those clinics would need to do. And then we improved the customer service window in the hospitals at the accident and emergency. So within 5-10 minutes of entering, a patient would be heard, not necessarily from a doctor, but at least the initial information would be collected. Then they would be channeled to a triage process where a doctor or nurse would assess their condition. If their condition is deemed not to be an emergency, and 30 to 40% of the times it's not, but the patient would not know that, they are redirected to an extended hour operating clinic, the particular designated clinic. And what we have found is that the numbers serviced by the clinics are going up naturally because more people have access, and it's quicker access because of the extended hours. And the quality of the service in the hospital, not just from a time waiting perspective, but from the time the doctor can now spend with the patient, longer time to appropriately assess the patient, has improved, and the response so far has been quite positive. April, we intend to expand that beyond the 7, and hopefully ultimately it becomes a critical part of the overall arrangement. The other component of wait is diagnostics. And the plan there, we're now finalizing a policy that is going to streamline our approach to procuring diagnostics, meaning equipment, in a more uniformed way, but also looking for private sector partners that would allow us to outsource some of the diagnostic services in a more uniform way. So those are the 4 critical areas of weight that we think have been important to Jamaicans, and we have spent some time trying to address those over the last 11 months.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister of Health, the Honourable Christopher Tufton, talking to us about achievements under his ministry.
You can lower your salt intake by checking the labels when buying processed and packaged foods. Compare products and choose the options lower in salt. A low salt option should have less than 120 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams of food. Reduce the salt and increase your consumption of fresh unprocessed foods. When cooking and at the table, use herbs, spices, and other seasonings to give you great flavor and taste. A public service message from the Jamaica Information Service and the Ministry of Health.
We've heard that cow's milk is good for teeth and bones. Nutritionists are also claiming it's good for weight loss. Take a look.
Hazelnut brown, white, spotted, horns or not. They produce that nutritious substance which makes strong bones and teeth. There is a drive on to have Jamaicans drinking more local cow's milk. For the last few decades, the consumption of Jamaica's cow's milk has declined significantly. The annual production of local milk has dropped from 600 farmers producing 38.8 million litres in 1992 to less than 200 farmers supplying approximately 12 million litres in 2015. At the same time, the consumption of milk and milk substitutes account for more than 60 million litres annually, 90% of it imported.
At what point we were able to say, but I don't think it was really a glut. It was the importation of the cheap milk powder. I know the milk powder doesn't have to be refrigerated. They were overlooking the nutritional value of cow's milk.
The decline in local milk consumption has affected several areas, causing a high import bill and a decline in employment opportunities.
I experienced milk a whole cool, and I'm talking about like 300 gallons of milk. And you have to just run it down the drain like that. And when you throw the milk, you still have to pay the workers, still have to pay electricity, still have to pay all your bills. Because you can't go to nobody who tells you have to throw the milk.
It also affects the cows, as the decline in consumption causes fewer milking sessions, forcing the breasts to become painful from an excess of milk. Despite the perils of the industry, there are farmers who refuse to be cowed by the appeal of cheaper imports. Oral Wallace is one such farmer who has put his life on the line to stay in the dairy business.
It was started in about 1969 by my father, Mr. Rupert Wallace, and my mom, Miss Pansy Wallace. They bring it up to about the year 2000 when I took over, about 2002. The major challenge for dairy farmers, I think, is period lasting. Because at night I can't sleep. I have to be up there. They make after me 2 times, I think within about 3 months period. And they came with their guns, but I had to take cover, and afterward they were evaded. Milk industry, it's basically you have to be a lover of dairying to be in it, because the dairy industry is not an easy road.
Gulping the white substance to the last sip will be a daily routine for every Jamaican if these entities have their way. 4 companies have formed a partnership to revive the island's dairy industry under what's called the Drink Real Milk campaign. The government-owned Jamaica Dairy Development Board, CB Group through its subsidiary Nutrimix, Separate Limited with its Surge Island Dairies, and Newport for San Jamaica Limited have come together to increase the production and consumption of Jamaican milk over the next 10 years. The target is to produce 20 million litres annually.
The industry itself was really degenerating quite significantly. It's a cause for concern for everybody.
The partners aim to overhaul the industry on 2 levels, production and consumption. The production strategy seeks to improve access to better genetic material, enhance animal health, and institute customized feeding programs and proper pasture management. The Jamaica Dairy Development Board has stepped in boldly to help in this area.
The dairy sector revitalization project, flagship project or activity is the concessionary loan program, where farmers have difficulty in accessing loans at reasonable rates. So we have instituted a program where we allow farmers funds, loans through the Jamaica Dairy Development, the DBJ, Development Bank of Jamaica and its affiliates, where farmers can access loans at the rate of 5%, which is quite competitive. There's a 5 million threshold for the individual borrower. And for corporate entities, it's 10 million.
The Dairy Board has also committed more than $20 million to deal with prairie larceny in partnership with the Agriculture Ministry. On the consumption side, the campaign seeks to encourage purchasing of fresh, locally produced milk to support the island's farmers, promoting the health benefits of drinking milk and sharing additional benefits of drinking cow's milk versus powdered milk.
Over the past few years, milk has been a little bit quiet, and so everyone else, all the milk substitutes have been in your face and telling you, oh, you know, you should drink us instead. But the reality is, there's nothing like real milk, and what we're trying to get people to understand as well is drink Jamaican real milk.
Once you let the people aware of the nutritional values of it, it will go right back up. I was almost born on a farm, and from I've born, I've been drinking cow's milk, and do I look sick? Not at all.
Supporting the local milk industry provides jobs, increases the country's economic wealth, and nourishes our bodies. Persons interested in entering dairy farming may contact the Jamaica Dairy Development Board at 618-7107 or 927-1731-50.
When using an automated banking machine ABM, ensure the machine is in a location you are comfortable with, and when you enter, be sure to close the door. Examine the machine before you insert your debit card, and never enter your card if the machine has a suspicious device attached to it. More important, don't allow strangers to assist you in conducting a transaction. And remember, treat your debit card like cash. Keep it in a safe place.
Coming up, online safety tips to protect your earnings.
Choose strong passwords. A lot of us reuse our password and we use easy what we call soft passwords. You know, the name of your child, your date of birth. We encourage consumers to choose passwords that are complex, include characters, numbers, and symbols in your password, and no less than 8 characters. The other precaution is to control access to your machine. That includes don't leave your device open on the table. So your smartphone or your computer, lock the screen. Very important because somebody can easily access your data that way. The other precaution is to protect your sensitive data. So identity theft is real. And it's pretty easy for an actor with criminal intent to get your private, to create an identity of you. So they can go on your Facebook page or your LinkedIn or any social media site and grab your information, your name and other information, and create a profile of you in a different scenario. In some cases, they can actually go in other jurisdictions, they can use the social security number and actually apply for bank accounts and other services, financial services. So identity theft is real and it affects us all. So the advice is to try and limit the amount of information you put out there in social media. Social media is important. It keeps you in touch with friends and family you haven't seen for years, and you have a big geographical distance between them, but it also exposes you. So keep your private information offline. In regards to online shopping, utilize the services of a legitimate and well-known and well-established website. Some of these more well-established websites may not necessarily carry the product or the service that you're looking for, but you do have websites out there that they may be running a legitimate organization, but their security precautions that they take in their back-end system is not sufficient. It not necessarily means that you can't shop with them, but or they might not deliver your product, but the level of trust that you have in them might not necessarily be what it should be. But online shopping, there's a service called the Better Business Bureau, which a lot of these websites utilize now. And what they do is the Better Business Bureau will evaluate the website and organization for the level of legitimacy, the care that they take in protecting shoppers' data, and they will give them a rating. Their rating system is also based on the number of complaints that consumers logged with the Better Business Bureau. So so websites that are highly rated by the Better Business Bureau will have a tag on them, BBB. You may have seen that before. So that's a good way of evaluating a particular website if you choose to shop with them. Protect your credit card information, especially online. Don't just plug it in any website. And remember to log out of websites after you finish using them.
In the past, we would simply, go into a bank and we would sign mountains of documents to purchase a house or even a car. Now there are opportunities for you to use digital signatures where you can do these transactions online, which now makes it even more challenging to police, because how do we know that you are the actual individual online that is adding a signature to a particular contract or an agreement? So it is very important for consumers to understand and to have a better education on protecting ourselves in these regards.
This is where we close the pages for today's show. Remember, the information continues to flow on our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You may also visit our webpage, jis.gov.jm, or our YouTube channel. Feel free to download our app from the Google Play Store. I'm Theodore Henry. Have yourself a great weekend.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.